G'day guys and gal. When you think of the Ultramarines and the other sons of Guilliman, you probably think of ordered ranks, bright polished armor, following the rulebook, and so on. You probably don't think about cannibalism and spirituality, but Warhammer 40k is full of surprises. The Mortificators, a verified Ultramarine successor chapter, are one of the most savage, brutal, and ruthless Space Marine chapters, up there with the Flesh Terrors and Space Sharks. Their horrific culture only matched by their unshakable loyalty and reliability. To say these guys are unique is an understatement, with it almost seeming like they have a direct phone line to the Emperor himself, which isn't a huge surprise. The Emperor finds extremely weird, messed up Space Marine chapters hilarious. Before we get started, we aren't releasing just one, but two new major minis today. The first is a hulking, gigantic master of mortification, a towering figure of destruction. He leads his cannibalistic warriors into any battle that they are needed. This continues the Chapter Master series we've got going, where I worked with Daryl and LJ Co to bring various random but interesting Chapter Masters to life. I think we absolutely nailed this one, a super unique unit to lead your army or just make it stand out more. The second release of today is the Master of Exorcism, a warrior who has eaten a fair bit of shit, being host to a demon that was then expelled from his body and now leads his band of warriors who have gone through the same. He wields a dope as hell snake staff, a big ass mace, and a no-nonsense attitude. Once again, he's a part of the Chapter Master series, which also features the Raptor, the Wolf Master of the Hunt, and the Soul Drinker, with the rest all in progress. But yeah, both models available right now alongside dozens of other incredibly crafted major minis ready to ship to your door. Today we'll go over the lore of the Mortificators chapter, detailing their origins, their doctrine, their main engagements, and why they are so different. Let's get into it. Amazingly, the Mortificators are actually one of the first Space Marine chapters ever created, coming from the second founding, which is all the chapters that came as a result of the legions being split up by order of Lord Guilliman, so that no one man may ever wield the power of Horus again. Chapters were not just formed at random. For example, the Black Templars were founded from the most zealous Imperial Fists, whilst the Crimson Fists were founded from the most level-headed, practical Imperial Fists. The Mortificators may have been drawn from the more superstitious, esoteric Ultramarines, if such a thing existed, as they used the Emperor's Tarot to decide which planet they should make their home. For context, the Emperor's Tarot are literally tarot cards, but much more specific and actually guided by a supernatural force that seems to come from the Emperor himself. I say that as if the cards were influenced by chaos or other warp entities, then the Imperium would have a really bad time with them. The cards are so accurate that they literally managed to direct the newly founded Mortificators to a specific planet called Possil, a feral world full of barbarian tribes who massacred and ate each other's flesh. It is also a world shrouded in perpetual darkness, which may explain why everyone went crazy. Make sure you get your vitamin D, guys and gal, or you may end up cannibalizing your enemies in ritual combat. Actually, that sounds metal as fuck. The Mortificators were like, cool, this'll do, and set up a star fort in the orbit of the planet, which became their fortress monastery. They did not want to civilize the world or develop it, as the quality of recruits that came from vicious warrior tribes constantly killing each other was extremely high. As the Mortificators believed they were directed to Possil by the Emperor, they did not want to reject or replace the culture of its people, so instead they recruited from the world and allowed their heavily Ultramarine doctrine and ways to mesh with the barbarian spiritual cannibalism of the world. Interesting combination, but surprisingly it worked. The result of this was a highly spiritual, almost religious chapter of extremely codex compliant, loyal and noble warriors who engaged in cannibalism. Yep, you heard me right. As a result of the eternally dark planet, the Mortificators also have developed a notable advantage over other Space Marines in low light conditions. Not as good as the Raven Guard or Night Lords, but still very good. So what does an Ultramarine that is involved in a cannibalistic death cult look like? Well, some of the most chill aspects of the Mortificators is the fact that they meditate before each battle, which to be honest is a great way to de-stress and lower your cortisol. In this meditative trance, a Mortificator seeks to gain spiritual guidance from the Emperor or even Guilliman himself. I don't think G-Man does much here, however the Mortificators have been known to receive visions and messages, act on them, and those actions end up saving the day, so perhaps there is something to it. The Mortificator recruitment process is pretty brutal, as you can imagine. Neophytes are treated like absolute trash. They aren't allowed to have a name, they're completely expendable in combat, are not even considered Mortificators, and are literally called the Faceless. The only way they can earn the respect of their chapter and actually not be considered literal trash is by scoring a worthy kill, whether that be a big orc, an enemy space marine, a Tyranid warrior form or above, and so on. Not just chaff like gaunts, orc boys, or chaos cultists. Upon scoring that kill, they will go from being faceless to blooded. They will then take the decapitated head of their worthy kill, flens the skull, and then wear it over their new helmets, hoping that they don't kill something that had a shitty bone structure that blocks their eye lenses. They will also eat the flesh and drink the blood of their slain enemies after battle. Now, the Mortificators don't really ever seem to wear face skulls in any official art or descriptions, so I imagine that they wear the trophy skull until it breaks, which would happen very fucking quickly in combat, and then they just don't replace it and continue forward as a normal looking marine, although they have been known to adorn their armor with the bones of their enemies. It probably comes as absolutely no shock that when the Mortificators fight alongside other loyalist chapters, especially the Ultramarine chapters, the other chapters are a bit like, what the fuck? When a bunch of Death Guard looking warriors covered in bones appear, massacre the enemy, cut their heads off, cleanse their skulls, drink their blood and eat their corpses. Now this may come as a bit of a surprise, but many loyalist Space Marines from many chapters have engaged in cannibalism. One of the Space Marine special organs allows them to relive a corpse's memories through consuming some of them. This obviously makes for fantastic intel, however Space Marines don't like doing it, and they generally do it in a quite private, clean and respectful manner. The Mortificators on the other hand just chow down on that shit, nom 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 nom, like a fucking tyrannid. It's extremely off-putting, but it doesn't say thou shalt not cannibalize in the Codex Astartes, so Spacebook says they're all good. As the chapter is so obsessed with the Emperor, they place a lot of emphasis and responsibility on their chaplains. See, in each Space Marine chapter, they value some specialists over others. Some chapters see their Tech Marines as necessary but unappealing, like the Raven Guard, whereas other chapters like the Iron Hands laud their Tech Marines as the best there is. Likewise, librarians from the White Scars act as spiritual advisors to the chapter, whilst other chapters see them as tools and weapons, and can barely tolerate them. The Mortificators see their chaplains as their guides, allowing the chaplains to wear the skulls of Space Marines themselves. The chaplains teach new Mortificators of their own mini-religion, that being that death will unite them with the Emperor, and when they do die, their souls will go to the Hall of Victors and feast with the Ultimate Warrior, which is some sort of godlike perfect entity. Maybe it's supposed to be the Emperor himself. Now they could be spiritually in tune, or they could have developed mad cow's disease from eating all those random unclean corpses, but it's a nicer thought than your soul getting shredded and obliterated by the warp upon death. What have they actually gotten up to in the lore though? Well, despite the age of their chapter, we don't know much about their early Imperium exploits. Their first reference in the lore being their involvement in fighting against Abaddon's 9th Black Crusade and M38. They defended a hive world alongside the Lamenters chapter, which yeah, never fun working with the Lamenters, and due to the Mortificators' superstitious nature, they actually refused to fight alongside the Lamenters, which caused a lot of issues for the boys in yellow. The next big engagement the Mortificators got involved in was the Achilles Crusade, a war against the Tau Empire. This was an interesting engagement as it pitted the Mortificators against the Kroot, two flesh-eating factions. There was no love lost here though. The Mortificators saw the Kroot's flesh-eating as unritualistic and disrespectful to their own methodologies, which is pretty hilarious. Some Mortificators were even eaten by the Kroot, so the chapter has sworn a special sort of vengeance against them. The Mortificators were so motivated to become expert Kroot killers that many joined the Death Watch to learn more and gain more knowledge that they could bring back to their chapter. Like all Ultramarines, the Mortificators are very adaptable. They would smear their faces in armor with the volcanic ash of the world they fought on to better camouflage themselves. Now you may be wondering if the Mortificators ever had issues with the Imperium for their cultural practices, and yes there was. They almost went to war with the Crimson Fists, but were stopped by Marneus Calgar, who solved the issue and ensured it never reached the attention of Terra. Other successful campaigns include the Mortificators teaming up with the Raven Guard during the Battle of Rauch, destroying the Blood Cult and wiping out Cornite demons. Then there is the Tarsus Ultra conflict, where the Mortificators teamed up with the Ultramarines' 4th Company to defend a world from a Tyranid onslaught. It's actions like this which explains why no one has come for the Mortificators. They're extremely effective and steadfast. Sure, they can be a bit excited in battle, but nothing they ever do is actually heretical or wrong, just a bit distasteful. See, eating flesh and cannibalism can seem a bit chaosy, but it's all about intent. Do they eat the flesh of their enemies because they love it, or because it holds spiritual significance? Intention is very important. Then something strange happened. The entire Mortificators chapter entered into a multi-day trance, where they all received the same vision that told them to go to Armageddon. With all haste, the entire chapter raced there in time for the 3rd war for Armageddon to begin, the Mortificators playing a key role in that war. Further proof that there does seem to be some kind of divine hand at work. The Mortificators have been pretty present for a lot of key events recently. They got involved in the 13th Black Crusade, they took part in the Terran Crusade, working to get Guilliman back to the Throne World, and they've even recently fought on Vigilus, the world that controls the only stable route that connects Imperium Sanctus to Imperium Nihilus. The Mad Lads even took part in the Plague Wars. Every single key conflict involving the Ultramarines recently have also involved the Mortificators. Sure, they eat the flesh of their enemies, but they're actually pretty cool dudes themselves. As a fun fact, watch Captain Artemis, one of the only Death Watch named characters that has a model and who has been involved in some of the most key Death Watch battles, including being the Marine responsible for stopping the awakening of Yened, was a Mortificator. As stated, a lot of Mortificators join the Death Watch to try get really good at killing Xenos, especially the Kroot, so it's cool seeing the chapter getting represented in the wider lore. In the current setting, the chapter has tragically lost their homeworld to a Tyranid invasion, forcing them to become a fleet-based chapter. However, with the arrival of the Primaris reinforcements, they are still strong and kicking. I just love how GW was like, okay, let's take an Ultramarine successor, make them extremely fucked up and deviant, but also like super Ultramarine-y, and now let's make sure that they're present for every single Ultramarine related event in the lore. I swear there must be like one lore coordinator that has a massive hard-on for them and sneaks into every meeting or into the house of every Black Library writer and forces them to include his fucked up Mortificator chapter into every single story. That's my personal headcanon anyway. If you enjoy the video and you want to support the channel, then grab the Master of Mortification, the Master of Exorcism, or any other of the dozens of major minis. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more cannibalistic content. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.